Welcome to JavaScript Evangelist. In this series, we are going to learn Angular 4. You don't need to have knowledge about TypeScript though. I'll be teaching you basics of TypeScript, but few things you'll need to have. You need to know a little bit about JavaScript. You need to have good understanding about HTML and CSS. Make sure you have some kind of IDE, either WebStorm or Microsoft Visual Code will also do fine, or maybe Sublime Text. In this video, we're going to actually start with the project. The project is about creating a blogger with a RESTful API. So we'll need to create project using Angular-CLI. We'll be creating simple components today. We'll be also creating a simple shared service. So let's get started. Make sure you have Node.js installed. Also make sure you have installed latest version of Angular-CLI. And we're going to create an project now. Just type ng new and the project name. I'm going to name it as blog ng4. All right. And once you type this command, it will take a lot of time. I would say a little bit time. It downloads a lot of stuff for you. And once everything is done, we'll need to type ng serve. Okay, so download has finished. I'll just cd to the blog ng folder. And to run the server, you have to type ng serve. And once the command is run successfully, you'll need to open your browser and open this URL. Okay, app works and Webpack has compiled successfully. Just open the folder into your WebStorm or the IDE of your preference. Okay, once you open the project, you need to go to src and you'll see a lot of files over here, but the main folder for our application is app folder. Inside app, you can see there is a app component already created for you by default, and this is how a component looks like. I'll just ignore this setting. So when you create a component, the component also gets added to the app module TypeScript file in the declarations. So we're going to see how to generate a component using Angular-CLI. Also, to hide this warning, since I'm using Node version manager, I have different versions of Node installed. In WebStorm, make sure you're setting the right version of Node, and you have downloaded and installed the latest version of TypeScript as well. WebStorm has an inbuilt TypeScript service, which is really useful. Okay, so let's just go back to our command line or terminal. I'm just going to open a new tab and I'm going to generate a new component. So the command you have to type is ng, G stands for generate, component, and the component name is going to be, let's make it post container. So this will create a new folder called post-container inside the app. Okay, and we'll see that post container. Okay, also you can notice that Angular-CLI has automatically added post container component under declaration inside my ng module. Okay, so app module is the file where we have the declarations, and now you can see post container we have over here. So we are going to create few more components. As I mentioned before, an Angular application is based off many tiny components, and you have to merge them together. So let's create navigation component, and after that we'll create a single post component. Okay, so go back to my terminal. I'll just hit up arrow on my terminal, ngg navigation and hit enter. Another component, we are going to name it as single post. All right. Okay, I think I should be creating single post inside post container folder. So what I'm going to do is I need to delete a single post component. And now if you go back to app module, you can see all the new components which we generated. They are automatically added to the app module folder, app module TypeScript file. I need single post inside post container. I can drag and drop it over here. That will be also fine, but I'm just going to delete it from here. And also I'm going to delete this from here and from here. Okay, so now you know whenever you're creating a component, you have to add it into app module. Okay, I'm going to create single post component inside post hyphen container slash single post and hit enter. Now you can see the single post component is generated inside post container folder, and that's what we wanted. So that's how you create components. Let's just see over here how they looks. Okay, the only component visible over here is the app component, which was over here, which is this one. If I, let's say, go to the app component TS file and I change over here something like this, JE, and if I go here, you don't even have to refresh, it will automatically refresh, it gets updated over here. So what I need to do is inside the app component HTML, I need to inject the newly created components. Okay, so first thing, above this h1 tag, I'm going to insert our navigation. By the way, if you look at the navigation component, the Angular-CLI appends app hyphen navigation. So app is a prefix, and if you have seen my previous video about web components, you will notice that hyphen is needed so that HTML knows that this is a custom component. All right, so you can change this prefix also if you want, but I'm going to just leave it to app hyphen navigation. After h1 tag, I'm going to load app hyphen post container. So post container will have all the data about the post which we will retrieve from a RESTful API. And inside the post container, inside the post container HTML, we will load our single post, app.singlepost, app hyphen single post over here, and we'll see that how it looks right now. Right now, all these components, they are dummy components. When I say dummy components, they are not aware of the services, they are not aware of the data. By the way, there are two types of components: smart components and dummy components. You already know what is a dummy component now. I'm going to explain further about components. And smart components are which are aware of the services and data. Okay, so that's how everything looks. And if you inspect on this, you can see this is a navigation component. After that, you have post container, and post container contains our single post. Let's check more about components now. I'll just go to post container component. Okay, and now if you look at the component, a component is created with @component decorator. So this is called a decorator, and a decorator is a function which accepts a metadata. A metadata has the information about the selector, template URL, and style URLs. Okay, let's see how we can modify this. I'm just going to remove this just for now. Okay, and inside this, I'm going to have a template. Instead of template URL, I'm going to use template. Let's say if you want to inject an inline template, I'm just going to add an h3. It will say inline TPL. Okay, and let's see how it looks. Inline TPL, and it works. We also have something called styles. I'll just add an h3 styling, color red, and let's check it out. Okay, it works fine. You can even use style URLs over here and pass multiple links to the different styles. But the way I prefer to create a component is I prefer template URL and style URLs. So I'm just going to revert back to the previous state of my component metadata. So we have a URL for our template. This is the file which contains our post container component HTML and the style URLs. Also make sure, even though add component decorator is a function, don't add a semicolon over here. You will face a lot of errors otherwise. Okay, and add component should be followed by a class. Okay, so this is our post container component class. Implements on init, basically this is inheriting on init class into post container component. We'll see about life cycles soon, don't worry. So implements on init. Right now we are just inheriting on init lifecycle. To tell you more about lifecycle, it's something like you want your component to behave differently or react differently during a specific moment in its life. So lifecycle, we'll need to check this example using inputs. We'll know more about inputs and outputs in future videos. For now, I'm just going to add a simple input over here. Basically, we are going to add an input into single post component. So single post component will receive a data from its parent container, that is post container component. If you look at over here, post container is a parent for single post. And also if you go to post container component, you can see it has a child component called single post component. Okay, so let's just go to single post component, and I'm going to add an input over here. So you have to declare an input. Input is basically it receives data and it passes down to its life cycles. Okay, let's just add an input. You'll notice that as soon as I add an input, WebStorm smartly adds it in my imports over here. So WebStorm is really useful for beginners. And add input is again a function. It's a decorator, but it's a function, so you have to follow it by parenthesis and give it a space, and I'm going to name it as post title for now, and I'm going to give it a type of string. So this is a method available with TypeScript. TypeScript is a type system, so I'm specifying that post title should be a type of string. Okay, and I'm going to pass this into my post container single post over here. So if you check over here now, post title is available to me over here, and I'm going to pass a string. I am a title. Okay, let's just go back to our single post component now and try to console log this out. I'm going to go to my constructor because usually not usually always the constructor runs first at least once, and I'm going to console log this out and to show you the problem. Okay, and just something styling. Let's see if this is available to me or not. This dot post title, And let's just open our console. And you can see it's coming up as undefined. I'll just reload this. It's still coming as undefined. That means we'll need to use a lifecycle method. So let's get to know a little bit about lifecycles. As I mentioned, there are several lifecycle methods, but the important ones which we are normally going to use are ng-on-init and ng-on-destroy and ng-on-changes. So I'll explain you a little bit about ng-on-changes. So ng-on-changes will be called only once after the first change. So basically it makes it perfect for the initialization work, and hence our post title will work fine over here. Okay, I'll just show you that, and I'm just going to remove this spaces. My TypeScript lint checking is really strict. Even if I remove this last empty space, it will give me an error. Okay. And let's just see if post title is working fine or not. Alright, so it's working fine. So now you know ng-on-init is basically used for initialization work. It's kind of a constructor for us. Okay, and so what is all the other methods? I won't go deeper into all the other life cycles, but I'll explain you about ng-on-changes and ng-on-destroy. So ng-on-changes will be the first to be called when the value of a bound property changes. Alright, so whenever I change this property dynamically, ng-on-changes will receive the changes. Okay, it receives a changes map and containing the current and previous values, something like watchers in Angular 1. And ng-on-destroy, it's really useful whenever a component is removed. So basically whenever you want to do some cleanup, or if you have some events and you want to unbind them, so ng-on-destroy is really useful at that point. To implement an ng-on-destroy, you have to, or even if you have to add any of the lifecycle changes, lifecycles, you have to add it after implements. If you already have one lifecycle over here, just pass a comma, and I'm going to say on destroy, and our WebStorm will automatically add an import over here. So now my TypeScript is yelling at me that you have implemented this, and that means I've inherited on destroy, but I haven't implemented the method ng-on-destroy. Okay, and this should be called whenever I remove this component. We'll come to this afterwards, but not now. Let's just quickly remove this, and going to remove this as well. Alright, let's create a simple service so that you'll know the main things in Angular. So to create a service, again I'm going to use generator, ng g for generate, service, and I'm going to create this service under shared folder, and the service name, again whenever you generate a service, the folder doesn't get created for the service, so we have to specify our folder separately. So I'm going to say posts and / my service name posts, and hit enter. Now you can see the service name is post.service, and which is created under app shared posts. Okay. Also, if you notice, the Angular-CLI gave me a warning: service is generated but not provided. What does this mean? So basically, we have created a service. We have created this service over here. That's all the service looks like, but we haven't added it in under our app module. Angular-CLI doesn't add that for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this name, and I'm going to add it under the providers inside my ng module, app module file. And basically what I'm telling over here is I'm creating a service and I'm going to initialize it over here, and which will be shared across my app, so it will be instantiated only once. And just going to select this, hit Alt Enter on your keyboard to add an import statement via WebStorm. Okay, by the way, my TypeScript is again yelling at me about double quotes and single quotes. Yeah, it's really strict for me. Okay, that's all from this video. When next time we meet, we're going to add some powers to our post service. We'll add a service. We'll learn more about injectables and observables. We'll also learn more about inputs and outputs. So see you in the next video.